I will go ahead and get that started. So again, thank you all for joining us here today for the 2023 annual meeting. Some fun things on tap, and we want to make sure that we leave time for questions for anyone at the end. So as we outlined in the invitation, we'll do some quick introductions, remind you all who, is on staff and who is sitting on our board of directors. We'll go over our strategic plan again, just as a reminder of the key elements of what we're working towards here at IEC. We'll talk about some of the work that we've been doing in 2023, and then look ahead just briefly at 2024, which will be, I think, a lot of fun. So with that, a quick look at most of our happy staff there at our Green Gala in September. We had a lot of fun, showing up in our nice green. We've had a slightly growing staff this year, so you'll see the list off there to the side with a few new names on our communications team, on our energy team, and our water team as well. We had some turnover and some new opportunities to bring some new staff on. So if you haven't spoken with some of these folks or you want to get to know them a little bit better, we encourage you can go to the website. All of us have our phone number and email listed there, or you can chat us up here. And we'd love to say hello and meet for coffee and learn about what you're interested in anytime. We have several of our board members on our call with us today, which is great. We're really happy to have them join us here. But this is a current look at our 2023 board of directors. So our 5 officers, and then our member organization representatives. As you might know, or maybe learned for the first time, IEC's board is comprised of both at-large members, so individuals who are interested in serving on the board, but then also a number of board members that sit on the board in representation of some of our member organizations. And that can change. These are not, the permanent member organizations that are always represented, but it can change based on, an interested board member who would like to join. And so you can see we've got several groups there. The Drake Environmental Action League is represented, Practical Farmers of Iowa, the Institute of Architects, the Iowa chapter, Des Moines Waterworks, County Conservation, Des Moines Selma, and then Friends of Big Rock. So they vary in the work that they do and the size and scope. But we're thankful for all of these board members, and the work that they do and the volunteer time that they give to help IEC advance and succeed. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Schmidt, our staff attorney and current interim executive director. He's going to go over the strategic plan. And again, just highlight those key points and review some of the changes that we rolled out last year for folks that might not remember all of those details. So Mike, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Angelisa. As Angelisa said, my name is Mike Schmidt. I'm the staff attorney and have been the interim executive director at IEC for close to 6 months now. So I will talk through a couple of the high points of IEC's strategic plan adopted early in 2022. So next slide, please. At a high level, IEC's mission is to create a just, healthy environment and sustainable future for all Iowans. This is consistent with IEC's mission for a long time, but we have adjusted it to focus more on the people of Iowa, not just the environment, but also how we interact with the environment. Next slide. We envision a state that is a leader in addressing climate change and environmental justice, and in creating resilient communities that embody Iowans' shared values of respect for all people and the environment. So we see climate change and environmental justice as overarching issues. They are not about just water or one particular thing. They are kind of how we interact with the environment overall and the effects that we have on the environment. Next slide. How we go about this work is defined by our core values. We are a coalition-based group. We have, as Angelisa said, many member organizations, individual members, and our greatest strength as an organization is in our relationships. As we do our work, it is informed by science, data, and stories. We care about the facts, what is true based on the science, and our position can change as the science evolves. We strive to be a trusted voice, respected for our integrity and resourcefulness, so we are able to speak with authority on the issues that we work on. Sometimes we educate and lead, and at other times we learn and follow. We recognize that there's always more to learn, there's more to know, And so while we have some experts on staff, there's always more that we can be doing and more that we can be learning. We are also, as an organization, inclusive, nonpartisan, and listen to others. Next slide. As part of our strategic plan, we talked about what we envision for Iowa in the future. What does the Iowa that we want look like? So that includes a healthy climate and habitat, diverse land uses, not just one or two crops, a variety of economic drivers and opportunities for all Iowans. So we have diversity in what Iowans are doing as well. We want equitable access to land and recreation and education. Also equitable access to affordable, reliable, and clean sources of energy and drinking water. So everyone can have those things, not just those who can afford them. We want a promise of a livable future for current generations as well as future generations. That goes to some of those overarching issues that we want in Iowa that works for everybody. And we want a public that is engaged and has access to the democratic process. Moving on, to implement that vision, to get there, we work on a number of priority issues. The first one is climate change. Iowa can be a leader in mitigating climate change. As I'm sure many of you know, we are a leader in clean energy, reducing the emissions from our electricity generation. And we are undergoing transitions, both in the energy sector and in other ways. And that creates opportunities for new jobs, changes in communities, and improving how people live. And it can also reduce pollution along the way. It can increase resiliency and improve public health. But of course, as we go through that, it needs to be a just transition, not just a benefit for some people. Which leads into the next slide, environmental justice. We recognize that the consequences of climate change and pollution are not felt evenly. Not everybody faces the same environmental burdens because of where they were born or where they live. And there's inequality built into many environmental laws. They may presume that people have the ability to move or to take some action, and not everybody has that opportunity. We will also strive to fight racism and inequality in our regulations, laws, and policies to build a more diverse, inclusive environmental movement in Iowa. I'll note on this, we held an environmental justice summit on Martin Luther King Day earlier this year, bringing together diverse voices to talk about the issues that Iowans face. Next slide. On clean energy, the overarching goal is a transition to 100% carbon-free energy to address climate change. And we've seen a lot of progress on that in the last 20 years or so. Part of that, as we see it, is to ensure that Iowans benefit from that transition and that everybody in Iowa is reaping those rewards of lower pollution and affordable energy. On water and land, we recognize that agriculture is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in Iowa, but we also recognize that it is the largest source of water pollution in Iowa. We want to encourage widespread land use change, including improved water quality, wildlife habitat, recreation, and soil health, moving away from the corn and bean intensive landscape that we have today to a more diversified landscape that provides all these benefits. When we are taking these actions, we have traditionally focused at the state level. We're a state-based organization, and we spend a lot of time trying to change state policy, change how the state operates. We also, as needed, work at the federal and local level. Federal level action can be very effective to address system issues or system problems. Things like the Farm Bill make a big difference on the agriculture and land use side. Things like the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission make a big difference on the energy side. We've also done work at the local and community level, meeting with folks, IEC members and others, and understanding their concerns and their issues. Turning to what we've done in 2023, we have taken a lot of action. We don't just envision that future and wait for it to come. We are taking action to make it come to fruition. One area where we've done that is on closing coal plants. Earlier this year, we had a win at the Iowa Supreme Court, where the court held that the Iowa Utilities Board must consider closing coal plants as a way to meet emissions goals. We had argued that, and the Utilities Board excluded our evidence, but the Supreme Court said they can't exclude the evidence. They have to consider it. And retiring coal plants is a way to meet emissions goals. IEC also participated in a legal case where we forced MidAmerican to reveal internal studies that they had been withholding, showing that their coal plants are losing money and that solar is the best investment going forward. And we've also been leading a strategic campaign called Clean Up Mid-Am with coalition partners. We are pressuring Berkshire Hathaway to set retirement dates for the coal plants. We are shifting the narrative about MidAmerican's generation fleet and creating an opening for policy changes. I'll turn it over to Alicia Vasto, our water program director, to talk about water pollution.
All right, thanks, Mike. We did a lot of really great work this year related to water quality and preventing water pollution here in our state. One of the issue areas that we've been working on really hard relates to concentrated animal feeding operation pollution, so CAFO pollution. So for the last few years, we've been working on trying to address rules related to CAFO siting and manure storage. And so this year we did a lot of work producing reports on the 100-year floodplain and siting of CAFOs, as well as the costs of CAFOs, is a report that we just released last month. We filed petitions in the last few years and followed up with a lot of public comments related to the rules, and that process is still moving forward and will be ongoing in the early months of 2024, so stay tuned for that. This year was the 10th anniversary of Iowa's nutrient reduction strategy. So there was a lot of communications related to, from agriculture groups as well as state agencies about progress that's been made on implementing that strategy to reduce fertilizer pollution, including manure pollution. And we really tried to challenge the rhetoric of that by shining light on the issues that we're still seeing related to that pollution and how the nutrient reduction strategy needs to be improved, and how we have a lot of ideas about how that can be improved and policy solutions for that. If you haven't checked out our decliningdecade.org website, I encourage you to do that to learn more. And then also this year, in an area that really overlaps between our energy and water and climate programs, we did some communications related to MidAmerican's proposal to discharge wastewater into the Missouri River that would be contaminated by coal ash pollution. So we did that earlier this year and haven't heard back about MidAmerican's proposal to continue with that plan. And we also held an event in Sioux City to talk about that, as well as those coal plants and the effects on water. So some really great opportunities to share about our work and how we're approaching this from a collaborative viewpoint here at IEC. So I will pass it back to Mike to talk about the other work.
Thanks, Alicia. We have also started working on environmental justice more this year. I mentioned the event on Martin Luther King Day earlier. We have also become a partner in the Heartland Environmental Justice Center, which is an EPA initiative where the Environmental Justice Center provides resources for people who need funding or have problems and need technical assistance. IEC is the Iowa partner for that initiative. We are also working on a mapping tool to identify target communities for outreach and coordination, which will support that EPA initiative. We are using federal data and other information to develop that. We also found out earlier this year that we were selected for 2 EPA grant programs, including the Community Problem Solving Grant, and we would be sub-awardees on a government-to-government grant So EPA announced those earlier this year, and we are still in the process of working out the details with EPA on both of those. For a couple of years, we've also been involved with the Drake Community Press, which is developing a book on diverse voices about environmental issues in Iowa, and that should be published in the second quarter of 2024. As we go through this process, we have been building power by collaborating with others, expanding our coalition, things like the CAFO rulemaking that Alicia mentioned. We brought on many supporters and partners in that. We similarly worked with others in a utility rate making study to provide unified support from business organizations and environmental groups in support of changes to utility rates. We're also strengthening and expanding existing coalitions, things like the Clean Up Mid-Am effort, where we are bringing together diverse groups and collaborating to make bigger change. We've added more supporters and followers to IEC's lists this year, so we're expanding our reach, and we are speaking out in new spaces and in new ways. Next, we will talk a little bit about IEC business, how IEC is operating. First, I want to give a big thank you to the outgoing board members. Jen Chambers, Kurt Johnson, and Monty Marty have served on the board for years and will be leaving us. So thank you very much to you. I know I see Kurt on here, so thank you, Kurt. We really appreciate it. And the board members do really great work for us. So we are very lucky and glad to have them. 2024 board elections are underway for some nonprofit representatives on the board. And our incoming president is Jenny Hermsen, who I will let introduce herself and talk a little bit about the 2024 board.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. Yes, I am Jennifer Hermsen. I work at Meredith in my day job, and I'm excited for the year ahead. We do have, is there a slide, Mike, for the board members?
I stopped sharing. Let me
Oh,
bring it.
that's okay. That's okay. I should know everyone by heart, but I don't. We do have a great board, as what Mike said, and we work together really well. We do have a few new members, as he mentioned, that are being voted on currently by the nonprofit member organizations. That includes Kate Zimmerman, as well as Jonathan. Here we go. Yes. Okay. So myself, president. Hello. We have Nathan Unsworth, who will be coming in as the vice president. We have a new treasurer, which will be Brian Riley. As noted, Jonathan is being voted in by our member organizations right now. Katie County was serving as president for the past 2 years, and so she'll be still very close and working closely with myself and Nathan as we transition into our new roles. David, Kevin, Nora, I see a lot of you on the call. Justin Lewis, Paulina, Kate, like I mentioned, will be coming on, Craig Miller, Kevin, and Amanda Drish. So thank you to all of our board of directors, and thank you to all of our staff and our member orgs. You know, it's been a great 2023, and I'm very excited to see what we can all do together in 2024. So thank you.
All right, I believe next we have Kitty Jacobson talking about the financials for IEC.
Thanks, Mike. 2023 budget, we had set a revenue of 1.34 million with expenses of 1.33 million. And we are on track to meet or actually exceed our budgeted net revenue for 2023. And of course, with added revenue comes added expenses, especially if we increase staff members. As our grants come in, we have more grant deliverables. And I would know that most of you know how this works. As a quick recap, what we're projecting for 2024 for the end of the year is the percentage of our projected revenue sources. We're projecting that 79% of our revenue will come in from grants and other restricted income. Around 18% will come in from fundraising events, member contributions, and other donations. And then around 3% of other miscellaneous income. So that's just a quick recap of 2023. We have a budget set for 2024 of about 1.6 million. Thank you, Mike.
All right. That is our overview of IEC for the past year and a quick look at 2024. So we are happy to take questions from folks.
I believe most everybody is muted. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can either unmute yourself or I can unmute you here if you raise your hand, or you can type a question into the chat. I'm keeping an eye on it so that we can answer those there. Does anybody have questions about any of the particulars we talked about or something else that you're wondering about related to the organization and our work for the year?
Hi, staff. This is Amanda Drish, board member. I have a quick question as far as the closing of coal plants going. Like, how is the actual PR on that? Like, how is it being received in the communities where the work is being done, right? Like, so between that, so this question is going to tie into working with farmers directly on initiatives to plant things other than corn and beans. So I'm curious about how the actual relationships are going with the people who are working in these environments, and if you're having conversations with them and what their responses are.
Yeah, we do talk to folks around the state, and there has been expansion in a lot of those conservation practices and cover crops, things like that. There's been a lot less in terms of switching crops to entirely different crops, and I think that's largely because of the incentives and system that we have. The Farm Bill encourages maximizing production in a lot of ways. It also provides for some conservation, and there are state programs that do that. But I think a lot of folks basically see the system that we have and the incentives that are there, and so they continue planting and operating the way that they have in the past. So it's been a challenge, I guess, to get that larger shift at a scale that is meaningful for water quality.
Yeah. And I'll chime in too on what Mike was saying. And I think this ties in. Sheila asked a question about the biggest obstacle to getting coal plant closures. And I think those two things, your question, Amanda, and that question tie together really well. Mid-American and Alliance still co-own and operate. Now, they don't co-own all of the plants, but between the two of them, they're still operating 6 coal plants in the state of Iowa. And my guess is that most of you on this call are like, whoa, 6, who knew? I thought maybe there were 1 or 2. All of my Mid-American bills say that we get 100% clean energy. So what we're definitely finding as we get out into these communities is that most people are either unaware and are very surprised to learn about the amount of coal that's still being utilized in Iowa and are concerned. They're also probably not aware that it's a very old fleet and that a lot of these plants are close to closure anyway, and Mid-American is not talking about that to them. So these people think of these plants as large job, creators, when in reality, those numbers have dwindled. There aren't a lot of people working in those plants, and they're close to the end of their lives anyway. So it is, a lot of education and information, and we leave those meetings, and I can let Steve speak to this maybe a little bit more, or Mike, as they've been in some of those meetings. We are really starting to turn our focus for 2024 to Sioux City, where Mid-American operates 2 plants right on the river, and they're 2 of the oldest in their fleet. And so we're really going to take the focus there to try to build a voice, a large community voice to see these plants addressed in some way. And I would say, Sheila, that's probably one of the biggest obstacles is overcoming Mid-Americans' ability to have a large PR campaign. They're sending mailers into, hundreds of thousands of homes every month saying your energy is clean and green. And that is hard to combat, but we're doing it and it's going really well. And so we're just continuing to hammer away at that narrative to try to illustrate that not all of your energy is clean. They're still operating 6 coal plants in Iowa. They're selling that, generation. It's unnecessary. It's old. It's very polluting. And we're continuing to hammer away at that message. I don't know if Steve or anybody else wants to weigh in. Otherwise, we have a question about. Oh, Steve,
I'll weigh in briefly just to sort of let people know. I mean, this is one of the reasons that obviously we are trying to push for integrated resource planning, because it brings transparency to the public in terms of how your energy is generated. And more importantly, what comes out of that is a plan that then cost effectively generates that energy over time. So if those coal plants show that they're not economic, then that plan says, well, we should replace those. So that's part of our rationale for why we're pushing very hard for planning, because it will result in dates.
Thank you, Steve. And that's a big part of the work that we are doing for the upcoming session. The integrated resource planning is a big conversation item that has come out of a legislatively mandated rate-making study. The state legislature told the IUB they had to do a study about how the state of Iowa sets its utility rates. So they held a number of meetings this fall. IEC participated. And then the IUB will submit a study to the legislature when they reconvene in the spring. So our energy team has been hard at work, meeting with coalition partners and talking about that and really trying to look for the best solution. And integrated resource planning is one of those. And so you can learn a lot more about that. We have a page on our website, iaenvironment.org/flip-the-switch, where we've got videos and some legislative handouts and different materials if you'd like to learn more about that. Sheila asked a question about what we would say the biggest obstacle to accomplishing goals for clean water would be. Mike or Alicia, I don't know if either of you would maybe want to take a stab at that quick.
Yeah, I can respond to that. I would just say, that the system of agriculture that we have is very dug in, and the issues that we face are systemic and related to policy and the incentives and that we have built into the system. And of course, we're up against some very powerful interests that want to maintain the system that we have. So, it is a very difficult fight, but there are a lot of things that we could be doing that are really common sense solutions. And I think that they're still worth advocating for. So we're going to be continuing to work on that going into the next year.
Thanks, Alicia. Gordon Bless, I think you are on the call. We have a question about maybe any updates on membership numbers. Putting you a bit on the spot, but I think you probably have one.
Yeah, I mean, I can share a little bit from an organizational member perspective. I believe we added about 6 new organizational members this year. We're still sitting right around the 100 member mark, as we still have some renewals that will come in as we get closer to year end. For individual members, we maintain an individual membership in the 400 to 500 range, and that has stayed pretty steady over the last couple of years. And we count pretty much everyone that makes a donation of $50 or more to IEC as a member, unless they specifically tell us they don't want to be. So
I am happy to report that, as working in the communication space, I see our email lists just about every day. And whenever I go to send one that is members only, so that inside look email that goes out every month, only goes to the members that, make gifts of $50 or above. And I see that list grow every month. I feel like it's going to about 100 more members than it was at the start of the year, which is really exciting. So, and since we don't have a hard deadline that all of our members pay at the same time, that number can fluctuate throughout the year. But Jordan and I are very buoyed by what we see, with those numbers just going up overall, which is great. We also had a question, and maybe, Mike could probably speak to this, or one of the board members that's sitting on the committee, about an update about how the search for the executive director is coming. If anyone would like to take that.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that and have any board members who have been on the hiring committee speak to it as well. So we posted a job, or the job opening several months ago, and had several candidates, but we are now looking at a search firm and are working with a search firm to get a broader pool of candidates to look at. And so we anticipate somebody would be hired in the first quarter, I believe, of 2024. So we're probably still a couple months out, but looking at probably March is kind of the target timeline right now.
Do any board members who've maybe been involved in that want to have anything to add, or? Oh, Nathan, go ahead.
I can just add, this is Nathan Unsworth. I'm the next vice president for IEC, but we're just really excited about the search. This is a great opportunity to really go out a little further and try to find the right candidate to come in and lead our work that we're doing in Iowa. We know it's super important to us as well as all of you, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing as a board member, or as board members, to find the right leader for this group and to help lead our great team. So we're going to be just as excited to announce that as you guys will be to hear it probably in the first quarter of this year. So we appreciate that. And if anybody knows anyone that would be interested, please be watching those announcements coming out. And, we have hired the Moran search firm, and we would encourage anyone interested in that position to reach out to them. So we appreciate all the help we can get on helping find a great new leader for our organization.
I'd like to piggyback on that, Nathan. We have a lot of amazing people who are on this call right now, and as a board member who's also on that search committee, working with the Moran team, anytime you see any post on social media, if you hit the like button, hit the share button, all of those views make a really big difference. And the board members, I see Kurt smiling, I am preaching this, so it's constant. So if you see anything on IEC's website, social media, Facebook page, whatever, any like, share, comment that you can give us is just going to expand that reach.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Nathan. Yes, absolutely. We are really excited that, the search firm that we've hired has a lot of experience in this, and, a really solid timeline. So, when they talk to us about, dates that they think, we feel really good, that they've got a plan and a pipeline, and we're looking forward to doing more as this moves forward. So that's exciting. We still do have a couple more questions here. One is a question about Iowa drainage law. Mike or Alicia, do either of you want to maybe talk a little bit about that? Updating
Sure.
Iowa drainage law.
Yes, I think there is ample opportunity to update Iowa drainage law. I did a report on this a few years ago, comparing Iowa's drainage law to other states. And as you might suspect, there's not a lot of legislative interest in updating Iowa drainage law. A lot of it is in statute, so it's not something you can change through rulemaking. It has to go through the legislature. We also have some language in the Iowa Constitution about drainage and adding, productivity to the land by draining it. So there are some challenges to addressing that. But I think there's also opportunity, because it is a way to have that water kind of captured in a pipe, which is, easier to treat than overland runoff in some cases. So yes, there's definitely a need to do it. And we are exploring how that could be done going forward. but it's not an easy process.
Thanks, Mike. And we have one more question here that we haven't gotten to yet related to engaging Iowa businesses in a more robust or public way to support IEC causes. And they recognize even if this is built over the long haul, which, you know, is great. I don't know, Todd, if you're still on the call, maybe you have a little more insight to what you might be, you know, wondering about. But yes, as part of a, you know, a coalition-based organization, building that coalition and having, you know, business owners and businesses that would be willing to speak out is really powerful to our cause. And so we're always looking to engage businesses, you know, in a more in-depth way. And so, you know, we'd be happy to set up some time to talk with you to learn a little bit more, or any business owner, if you know someone, you know, that you think would be a good fit. You know, we have businesses that have nothing to do with environmental causes, but support our work because they care about the environment personally, or, you know, they feel it's important, you know, up to organizations that do, you know, environmental drainage and, you know, projects and things like that. So they don't have to work in the environmental space to become a member org and add their voice, you know, to the coalition. Todd, I did see you unmuted, so I'm going to pause and see if you have anything to add.
Sure, thank you. I just feel that their voice, you know, even politically, can just be so powerful if they're on board and are a positive spokesperson for any of these issues. And I don't have the answers. Like I said, when I say building it over the long haul, as Mike said early, it's all about relationships. So when there's trust and understanding early on, you think maybe you can have people just be more vocal than they are instead of sitting back. And all of these, so many Iowa businesses are in need of employees. And I think just the whole environmental quality of Iowa is one of the more competitive aspects when any business is recruiting people, that I think is maybe under the radar. I mean, they all have a vested interest in that regard, besides their own personal, you know, environment. So anyway, it's just something out there. I always wonder, why aren't these companies saying more? And thanks for raising the topic. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for chiming in, Todd. You're absolutely right. That is a very powerful voice. You know, small business owners and you know, community businesses and employers are a huge part of making things move at the Capitol, making them move more effectively. And that's, you know, one of the reasons that our coalition structure really is beneficial. But yeah, we'd love to, you know, engage, you know, any business owners, you know, in any time that they can help. We often will have, you know, businesses sign letters of support. We did that during the Des Moines, that was in 2022, where we were working on a 100% carbon-free pledge for the city of Des Moines. We had worked on that in Waterloo and in Iowa City. And so part of that initiative was getting, you know, businesses around Des Moines to say, we're in support of this initiative. And so I don't think maybe Jordan Oster's on the call right now. I think we had somewhere between 50 and 60 businesses just in the downtown and East Village region sign on to that letter of support. Or, you know, a big part of the rate making coalition or group that IEC has been meeting with is talking about and, you know, figuring out who those business leaders are that would be a good voice to speak at the Capitol. But you've got the nail right on the head, and we'd love to, you know, engage folks any way we can. I think that clears all the questions we had in the queue. Does anybody have anything else to add or they're wondering about? Otherwise, we have one more slide before we hit the road, kind of giving you a heads up on what's coming, you know, down the pike as we wrap up the year. And I'll share my screen again real fast so we can. Mike, you want to send us out on some, you know, interesting news?
Sure.
What's coming up?
Yes, we have a number of events coming up that we want to highlight. One is in a few specific locations around Iowa. We are doing something called Energy Power Hours to get folks in those communities kind of more up to speed on what's going on with energy in their area. We also encourage you to give to IEC before the end of the year. We are, as Kitty said, on track for meeting our revenue goals, but we rely heavily on individual donations, especially at the end of the year, to actually make our budget. Legislative session opens up in less than a month, and we will be active there. Another recent update is that there are siting rules for animal feeding operations, concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs, that will be open for comment through February 2024. So we will be doing action alerts about that. And then for events, we have Environmental Advocacy Day in February, Environmental Mixology, which is a fun music-focused fundraiser, in March. We have our Green Gala set for June of next year. And maybe the biggest news in terms of events is that we are bringing back the annual conference. And the first, first annual conference since the last time we did the annual conference in 2018 will be in the fall of 2024. So we are still working out the details on that, but we're excited to get that going again. It should be a great way to connect with other folks who are interested in the same kinds of issues and learn. And then also we're expecting Pro H2O, our water-focused fundraiser, to be timed around that conference. So it should be a great 2024. We're excited to make more progress, spend time with folks, and make new partnerships. Thank you.
Well, thank you all again for joining us today. That wraps up our presentation right on time. We'll have this recording available if you want to share it with anybody. You know, if you're like, hey, friend, have you heard about this cool group and what they're doing? We'll put it on YouTube, and you know, just continue to help us spread the word and you know, get good information out there. We thank you all for your time and support and effort this year. So thanks to everybody. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of 2023, and we'll see lots of you in 2024. Take care.